Welcome back to another episode of the Astrology Magic Podcast, where we talk about astrology in a way that helps you create magic in your life. I'm your astrologer, Rachel Veritimos, and today we're going to be talking about this week's energy, the week of July 14th to July 20th, 2025. So let's get into it. So let's start by talking about the general vibe for the week. And I'm going to share a story with you. It's a made up creative story, but this story is going to tell you about what this week could feel like. Now, maybe this exact situation is going to show up in your life. Highly unlikely. Really, astrology shows up in limitless ways. I could probably tell you stories for several lifetimes that could describe the one energy we're feeling this week. So we're just going to go with one way this energy can show up, all right? Okay, so what's the story? You have really been stepping into a new version of yourself. You've been becoming more confident. You've been having stronger boundaries. You've been taking way more risks in your life. You've been feeling a lot more like your authentic self and who that really is. And let's say you had a friend group, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And when you had this friend group, you were a certain version of yourself. You weren't nearly as confident as you are today. You didn't have the best boundaries. You were more of a people pleaser. People could say things to you that hurt your feelings, and you would just chalk it up as, well, I'm really sensitive, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let them say what they want to say and act like it doesn't bother me, while secretly it really bothers you and it really doesn't feel good. And maybe even there's like a lot of subtle jabs that you have felt throughout your time of being in this friend group. And so it's kind of like built up this feeling inside you of, I'm not important, I'm not safe, I can't be myself, I'm too sensitive. It just kind of added to this lack of confidence. Well, you haven't seen that friend group in like 15 years. And this week, you're doing something new in your life. You've been building a business for the last 5 years. And you've been trying to build it all online, but it's felt so hard. Everything about building it online has felt partially like you, but not really like you. You've always told yourself you're way more of an in-person person. If people just met you in person, you could connect with them better. And so ever since Uranus entered Gemini, you just had this flash of insight. Oh my God, I don't have to only market online. I could market at music festivals and events and things that I love to go to. Maybe even wanting to bring more fun into your life, and this idea just came to you. And now you actually have the confidence because you've been building your business for 5 years. You've been trying a lot of things. You've really built up a stronger emotional inner world. This business has almost been a personal development journey for you, for your confidence. And so when it came to doing something in person, yeah, it feels new. It feels like change. It feels like a risk, but it also feels so right. And you've learned to trust that feeling over the years. So you're doing it. This week, you have your first in-person festival. You're so excited. You feel like you're just going to have the time of your life, because if you reflect on times from the past, you always had most fun at any job, and it was in like a marketplace type environment. And so you go, you're having a blast, you're having a great time. You're making all these different sales. You've made more money in the first day of this festival than you have all month. And then on the second day of the festival, someone from your old friend group sees you. They're at the festival and you haven't seen each other in like 15 years. And they say, hey, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And they're like, what are you doing? You have this booth, you have this business. They're just so shocked at where you're at. You look like you're crushing it. And you begin to have this mini catch up, and it feels really good, but it also feels really interesting because you used to know this person as a certain version of yourself, and you're so far away from who that version of you was that you're just curious how this conversation's going to go. So, at one point in the conversation, your friend makes a dig at you, and it feels so similar to the digs that your friends used to make at you 15 years ago. And you remember that version of you would never say anything. You just chalk it up to, oh, they didn't mean it. Oh, they still love me, whatever. But that's not who you are anymore. You set boundaries. You've been really owning your worth. And in that moment, instead of letting it pass by like you always do, and maybe even like this friend expects you to, you stop it and say, hold on a second. Did you mean to say that thing that way? Because it hurt my feelings. Did you mean to sound mean? Did you mean to come off that way? And your friend just kind of gets all weird and trips over her words, and she looks kind of shocked, stunned that you said that to her. Thrown off guard, almost like she's looking at you like she's like, wait, I thought I knew you. Who are you? Kind of type energy. And she real quickly is like, oh no, I didn't mean to come off that way. I'm sorry. I thought that you wouldn't care about that. I thought that you would just be fine. Maybe that you'd have a tougher skin or something. And in that moment, you share with her, I do have a tough skin. I have had a tough skin in the past when we used to be friends, but that did sting, and I'm going to let you know now. And your friend says, wow, thank you for saying that to me. It seems like you're doing so well. You're radiating, and you feel like you've just flourished in your life. I totally get it. That is not what I meant. And then you guys end the conversation. It was so nice to see her. You end up seeing her a few more times throughout the festival. And every time you see her, it feels like you guys are relating in a different way. It almost feels like she looks up to you. It almost feels like for the first time in being friends with this person, instead of putting the friend on a pedestal and all your friends on the pedestal and thinking you're too sensitive and you're below and you need to change, you're realizing that the more you honor you, the more people put you on a pedestal, the more people love you. And it's this breakthrough around thinking, wow, I used to think love would come from just allowing people to walk over me and not saying anything. But what you realize is, I really get to be me. I really don't have to micromanage how I express myself in order to be loved or seem nice or be liked. And you could leave that weekend. It's not just this win in your business, this win in how you market it. You didn't just make all this money and gain all these new connections. You gained this new sense of self and who you are and internal boundaries around your emotions. And you leave that event feeling stronger than ever. That's what the energy this week feels like. Now, where am I getting all this? Well, we don't have a lot of major aspects until about the end of the week. So it's not until about this weekend, Friday through Sunday. So maybe like all week, you're preparing for the festival. You're getting everything in order. You're preparing for trying this new thing. And then the story I just talked about is really happening more towards the end of the week. So on a day-by-day basis, I'm not going to look too much at Monday through Thursday. But what I will say is that on Friday, July 18th, Mercury is going to station retrograde in Leo. This is the second Mercury retrograde we're having of the year. This is the second of 3 Mercury retrogrades, and all 3 of these Mercury retrogrades are in fire signs. And this is so interesting to me because we're coming into this new Earth, right? We're building a new Earth. Saturn's moved into Aries. Uranus just moved signs into Gemini. Lots shifting and changing. Pluto just moved into Aquarius. And with all of these Mercury retrogrades happening in fire signs, it's like we're reviewing that spark that gets us moving, that spark that gets us to assert ourselves in our life. That's what we're reflecting on. That's what we're shifting and editing and changing and turning inward on, right? In the story, the way this person stood up for themselves and asserted themselves was with confidence, new confidence, and it was with a past connection, Mercury retrograde. It's a Mercury retrograde in Leo. Leo is the sign of confidence. It's king-queen energy. It's leadership energy. It is the energy of success, of joy, pleasure, play, drama. I just think of being at a music festival when I think of Leo. That's what I think of, a party. And with Mercury going through Leo, this conversation that you could have to do around your authentic self-expression. It could be something from the past that makes you reflect on what's really authentic for you. But Leo is also the sign of being seen. And we could be reflecting on how we go about being seen, how we see ourselves, how we feel seen in communication with others, because Mercury is how we think and communicate. And so really, this Mercury retrograde can shift and change how you go about leading and creating your life. It can shift and change your authentic self-expression, how you assert yourself. It can help you align deeper with your passions. Like I talked about in this story, how you've been marketing your business online for 5 years, but you had this breakthrough in recognizing, oh shit, I actually love being in person and I love being with people. And then you realize in the story that this is such an amazing way to market, and you can't believe you tried to force yourself to do it the way everyone else was doing it. All you had to do was what was fun and true for you, right? That's what you could be reflecting on during this Mercury retrograde, is aligning with something that's really fun and true for you. And this could be a breakthrough Mercury retrograde because Uranus, the planet in the sky that is responsible for our awakenings and breakthroughs and disrupting old patterns to bring us into new ones, is ruled by Mercury because it's in Gemini. So whatever Mercury is doing is part of these awakenings and these breakthroughs. Hence why in the conversation, it was this breakthrough in communication between you and a past Mercury retrograde friend. Now, where the friend comes into play with this Mercury retrograde is on Friday. Mercury retrograde in Leo is going to be in a harmonious aspect, a sextile to Venus in Gemini. So Venus is our relationships, and Gemini is how we communicate in our relationships, how we explore different topics, how we share information, how we learn from one another. Venus is also money. So with this Mercury retrograde in a harmonious aspect to this planet Venus, Gemini is also sales. You could be making way more sales by aligning with what's fun for you, by doing this new thing. Try new things this week. Really, that's really what I want to hammer in. Try new things that feel fun, things that bring more joy into your life. And not just trying new things in your life, experiment with new ways of communicating and owning who you are, owning how you want to go about expressing yourself to the outside world by communicating in this new way. And then on Saturday, the sun in Cancer will square Chiron in Aries. So Chiron is the wounded healer. It is our deepest wound. And with it being in Aries, it is the wound around itself right now. A square is a challenging aspect, and the sun in Cancer is shining a light on past hurt, on the past. And because it's in a challenging aspect to our wound, it makes me feel like a past hurt could be brought up around yourself, Aries. And so that's part of the story where I talked about how a friend from the past decided to throw the same old dig they've always thrown at you, and it hurt your sense of self. Maybe those digs 15 years ago really shaped who you are today and made you second guess yourself and feel unworthy of owning who you really are and standing up for yourself. Chiron and Aries, the path to healing is standing up for yourself. It's choosing you. It's trusting that you are worthy to be here just as exactly who you are. And this square to the sun in Cancer, Cancer's really tied to the past. It will repeat past stories again and again and again because that's its version of safety, is that wound. And so this challenging aspect is an ask, can you overcome this past wound, this past story about yourself, and assert yourself in a new way. Assert yourself by choosing you. And then on Sunday, July 20th, the moon in Gemini will conjunct Uranus in Gemini. So the moon is our soul. It's how we connect. It's how we view and express about our emotions. That's the part of the story where you stopped in the conversation, because Gemini's conversation, you had a breakthrough moment. That's the Uranus in Gemini. And you said, hey, that hurt my feelings. And you set a boundary for the first time. And remember, all week, now Saturn is retrograde in Aries. That means we've been stepping into this new version of ourselves, and now we're really feeling into our internal boundaries. So in this story, this person was like, that didn't feel good. I'm going to say something. I'm going to find that separation between me and them. I'm going to be bold, Aries. And then also on Sunday, Mars in Virgo is conjunct the South Node in Virgo. This is huge because the South Node is where we are shedding karmic baggage, karmic wounds, wounded Virgo energy. And Virgo is also about communication, but it's about trying to be perfect. And it's almost like a slave energy when it's wounded. It just wants to be helpful to everyone and fuck what it needs, right? But Mars is how we assert ourselves. So if we're shedding this old way of asserting ourselves and we're stepping into this new way of asserting ourselves in how we're of service, that's that part of the story where you're being more direct, where you're shifting the dynamic between you two, where you're no longer going to be a slave to this type of dynamic, but you're owning who you are in your day-to-day. You're owning your value. And you're stepping more into your limitless whole soul nature. So Sunday could be a day where you shed perfectionism, and maybe you're a person who always feels like I need to make this better and better and better and better. And Sunday could be a day where you feel more grounded because you've been honoring yourself and connected to your soul. So you just feel certain in what you've done and you don't feel like you need to do anymore. It's a grounding feeling is what I get. When we heal Virgo wounds, it makes us get out of our head and need to fix things and be a little scattered with fixing things and throwing spaghetti at the wall and thinking more is more. And instead it brings us back to center. It grounds us and we take action from our soul, from what feels right. And that's a very grounded, sure, simple place. So you know how at the end of the story, I talked about how the dynamic shifted in the relationship. Before, you were like the slave of the friend group, just people pleasing everyone, like fuck your needs. And now the dynamic shifted because you asserted yourself and this person sees you in a whole new light. They see you as this leader. That's what Mars on the South Node. Mars is shedding an old way of leading yourself, asserting yourself. They see you in this much stronger way because you're owning who you are. That's what's available this week. A lot of growth, a lot of grounding into the truth of who you are. A lot of trying new things. Nurturing yourself in a new way. How can you be your own best mother? What would your mother do if someone talked to you that way? If you were fiercely protective of your emotional inner child, what would you say? What would you do? How would you start to recreate your life so that it was more authentic to that inner child? Your inner child has so much wisdom and gifts that are just waiting to be accessed by you choosing them. That's all they're waiting for. They're just waiting for you to choose them and to trust. So that is the energy this week. For my paid subscribers, you get personalized ChatGPT prompts. So I made specific ChatGPT prompts. You just copy and paste each day, fill in your rising sign, give you your horoscope and tell you how to navigate each day specific to your chart. That's how I enjoy growing and evolving with the astrology, is on a daily basis. I recently talked to my friend, and I think some people are more body-based growers and evolutioners, and other people are both body-based and psychological. So I find that the people who grow and evolve with the astrology the best on a daily basis have a combination of you have breakthroughs in your body, but also you have a really deep psychological brain where you're really good at going into the depths of your mind and uncovering hidden insights. So there's 2 ways you can go about following the astrology with the prompts that I have. If you're much better at being body-based and getting your insights and then reflecting back on the astrology, then don't put the ChatGPT prompt to discover your horoscope for the day until the end of the day. And then reflect on your day and see what insights come out, and then meditate. If you're more psychologically based like I am, and you're really good at looking at the astrology in the beginning of the day and then using it as an intention to look for places where you could make shifts and changes in your life, that's what works best for me. Then look at the astrology in the beginning of the day. If you don't know which one you are, then just do either. Experiment with when looking at the astrology works for you. I also want to say that astrology should never be used to make you feel bad and make you feel like something horrible is going to happen in your life. That's not the purpose of how to use it. The purpose is to come into more surrender in your life, more acceptance, or insight and clarity on how you want to move forward. So if you want to become a paid subscriber, go check out that article linked in my show notes. It will take you to the paid subscriber article version of this. And then at the bottom, you'll be able to copy and paste the ChatGPT prompts and get your specific guidance. So that is our astrology for the week. I love you. I will talk to you guys next time.